willing, the powers that be are willing to put officers in danger in Waco, Texas. Why did I say danger? You have motorcycle gangs that have announced that they are on the way to take care of law enforcement, but yet you have a heavier police presence at the Justice for Kendrick Johnson rally than you did initially in Waco, Texas. Please repeat after me by saying something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Real wrong. Dead wrong.
Now I understand they got snipers and things on the roof of that nature. They have beefed up security, but is there any curfew that's been set in Waco? Is there any curfew that's been set in Waco? Is there any National Guard that's been set in Waco? Well, Brother Coleman, again, what does this have to do with Kendrick Johnson? Because if you take 200 yards down that road, there is a very intimidating police presence, but intimidating only to those that are timid. We didn't bring no fluff and no puff and no timidness with us today. We want to thank the legal observers that are in the house to make sure that there are no violations of civil rights that are taking place. Let me say this. Let me say that deserves a round clap. That deserves it. Let me say this to the officers that are listening. This is never an attack on your department as a whole. We're going to let the federal investigation weed that out. Those of you that claim to be good, we know that there is a code blue line of silence that exists. The reason we can stand here so firmly because we know righteousness and justice is on our side. Truth be told, many of you privately have expressed your concerns for what happened to Kendrick Johnson. But that's the key problem here. Privately expressed your concerns. If we are to have good law enforcement here in this country, it is time for the ones that claim to be good to break their silence and turn in your brothers that you know are diluting the potency of your profession.
Preach. Preach.
The brothers from the FOI are here for their disciplined military type of mindset and tactics. That should let you know we have an appreciation for law enforcement, but only the good ones.
All right.
We fight against injustice and crooked law enforcement vehemently.
All right.
No matter where it is. And it just so happens to fall right here in Valdosta, Georgia. Valdosta is Ferguson. Repeat after me. Valdosta is Ferguson.
Valdosta is Ferguson.
Valdosta is Ferguson.
Valdosta is Ferguson.
I mean in more ways than one. We didn't get what we wanted in Ferguson when it came to arrest. But you know what we got that some people like to overlook, but I want you to understand the importance of it, and the legal minds in here understand it. We got a report from the Department of Justice confirming that there is corruption and criminal activity running rampant in the city of Ferguson. Did you hear about that?
Yes.
Now, that doesn't make us jump for joy, because you would think if we have that intelligence, and I don't mean smarts, I mean literally have that intelligence, there should be something done about it. But the first step you got to do is document this criminal activity. 17 months. The federal investigation into Kendrick Johnson continues. Answer this. Have you ever heard Mr. or Mrs. Johnson or any member of the Johnson family or myself speak out about why is it taking so long? Have you ever heard that? No. The reason you don't hear it is because we are confident that agents are in and out of this city like ants through grass. How do we know this? By your conservative talk radios here in Valdosta. How do we know this? By word of mouth by the locals here in Valdosta. This is what they say. We are sick and tired of this administration blowing this out of proportion. is, they've even started to turn on their own. I'm starting to hear negative comments about U.S. Attorney Michael Moore.
Whoop. There it is.
See, Michael Moore looks like them, talks like them, lives in areas that they do. But because he has been methodically and surgically performing this investigation, now all of a sudden they're getting a little nervous. Now all of a sudden they're starting to attack the very system that they used to believe so much in. I'll say this before I bring up the other speakers. We need you to pay attention to the Kendrick Johnson investigation. Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice. Shootings go on and on, killings go on and on. We haven't accused law enforcement of having a hand in the killing of Brother Johnson, but you sure best believe law enforcement is entangled with the corruption and the cover-up of Brother Kendrick Johnson.
That's right.
All right.
Law enforcement.
So we gonna stand right here for them. We gonna stand right here for them. Last comment before I go and bring up some other speakers. The parents of Tamir Rice, the parents of Michael Brown, and the family of Michael Brown, and the parents of the other names that I have rolled off, at least they know who is responsible for the killing of their child and their loved one. Kendrick Johnson, we've got missing evidence. We've got his clothes that have never been found. We've got all 10 of Kendrick Johnson's nails cut down to the point of bruising. We have that ridiculous, bogus story given by Sharon Prime, calling this an accident before the autopsy was even performed. I love the young folks saying, where they do that at?
Where they do that at?
Go ahead, brother.
See, their arrogance turns into ignorance. That ridiculous notion that this brother just crawled into a mat, got stuck, suffocated, and died. We have the surveillance camera footage that has miraculously or mysteriously, whichever way you want to look at it, has hours upon hours of blacked out footage. We have Kendrick's remains being exhumed, only to have a second autopsy contradict the first. These are the facts, gentlemen. This is not rhetoric. These are the facts. First autopsy, positional asphyxia, suffocating under his own body weight. You hear some of the experts that are connected to law enforcement running through this town telling you how that is possible. You gotta understand, Kendrick was upside down for an amount of time and the blood rushing to the head. Hey, listen, hey, man. Hey. Sometimes it's just time to break it down to the real. Sometimes it's time to be outside the line of politically correct. Their child is no longer living. Second autopsy said blunt force trauma. Coroner called to the scene at least 6 hours late. The funny thing about that, he tried to retract his statement, calling CNN saying, please don't air what I stated. It didn't work. We talked to certain people in this city here about the coroner being called 6 hours late. They say, yeah, we understand, that's not normal practice. It's illegal. Every gray area they have justified or belittled. Some of you might say, well, Brother Coleman, wait a minute. The second autopsy was blunt force trauma, but what about Kendrick's hollow shell of a body? Missing every single organ in his body, tongue and windpipe removed, only to be stuffed with newspaper and magazine articles. The report came out and said that is not illegal, but it's just not in best practice. Well, I think as the black community, we're sick and tired of always not having the best practice.
That's right.
We want nothing more, nothing less. If it was their family, the ones that are walking behind me now, they would appreciate the fact that there are those that are willing to stand in the face of